Toys are supposed to be for kids. So why are adults standing in line at Comic-Con, refreshing websites on pre-order day, and driving across town looking for the latest action figures? Maybe it's not really about the toy. Maybe it's about preserving a piece of the things that made us who we are. Tonight's question, why do we collect? To help answer that, I'm joined by Dalton Anthony, whose wrestling figure collection has grown into an entire room of memories, stories, and a whole lot of shelf space. Let's question everything. Dalton, welcome to the show. Thanks for taking time out of your day to join me to talk about toys.
Thanks for having me.
Obviously, anyone watching this can see already right behind you, you've got a huge collection. So, what inspired me to reach out to you for this was last week, as we record this, was the big San Diego Comic Con, where everybody unveils everything basically coming out for the next year in terms of pop culture. And it seemed like every time I would open social media, there would be another picture from either the Mattel booth, Jazzwares, whoever making wrestling action figures. And this is a topic that has kind of baffled me over the years, and how wrestling action figures have become more, I think, correct me if you disagree, I think they're more for collectors than toys. Would you agree?
Yeah, yes and no.
Okay.
I think that they are. I do believe that they're becoming a collector item more than a kid's item. Uh, but like, it is very common. Like in this room that I have this little den set up that I'm currently in. I have action figures everywhere, and I display them, and they are collector's items. But like, I will sit around and pose action figures. Like right next to me, I have a giant ring set up. From like all of my favorite wrestlers in like action poses. Like I have Bret Hart doing the sharpshooter with Steve Austin with the bloody head sculpt with Shamrock watching. Like they're collector's items, but I think at the end of the day, they're still toys.
Yeah. So you do open yours. You're not keeping them in the box, never to be
Um,
played with, to looked at, just to hopefully one day sell off for a retirement fund.
no, oh no, this very much is a hobby for me. I don't treat it like an investment. I have a couple of figures that I keep in box. Like I have a relatively decent collection of the AEW chases and rares.
Hmm.
And for the most part, I keep those in box unless it's something like I really want to have out to display. And then I have two signed WWE Mattels of X-Pac. I kept those in box, and yeah, I have a couple that are in box, but for the most part, I open everything up.
And how long have you been collecting?
Action figures I've been collecting since 2013. Just in general, I started with Marvel Select, coming out of Diamond Select, which I don't even think that company exists anymore.
Hmm.
And then I started collecting WWE figures in, I want to say it was November of 2014, because it was the same year that CM Punk walked out of the
Okay.
WWE. And the way that Mattel does things is they have things set out like 6 months out. So there's people like JC Mateo's action figure just came out like a week ago. So CM Punk's leaving. We don't really know what's going on. And I think it was Elite 29, which I was pretty early in the Elite waves now. I think we're in the 120s now.
Wow.
Um, they had an Elite CM Punk, and I was like, well, if he's done with WWE, I'm going to want one of his figures at least. Because at that point, I wasn't collecting wrestling figures at all. I just had Marvel action figures. So I think that was my first Elite, was Elite 29 CM Punk.
Is
And
that
that
the
would have
one
been,
that with the sling, or was that a different CM Punk?
no, this one was a blue hoodie.
Hmm.
So it would have been like him versus Brock Lesnar
Gotcha. Okay.
right after WrestleMania 29.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's that one, blue hoodie. It's pretty cool. I have it over here. But I don't think I can reach back and grab it right now.
Right.
But that was my first Mattel WWE. And then of course when I was a kid, I had the Jack's Bone Crunchers, because I was born in '92, so I'm an Attitude Era kid. So I had the Jack's Bone Crunchers, and then it went into Titantrons, and then I stopped collecting action figures. And then whenever I got into college, I had a really good friend, Andy, who I went to his house, and he had a den, kind of like what mine looks like now, of just action figures, and it got me wanting to do it. which in college I had no money, so like I would buy a
Right.
figure like every other month, and now it's like, ah, if I get away with not buying like 10 figures a month, I'm doing a good job.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, I was going to say that the focus of this series is all about fandom. So obviously, would guess that you are a wrestling fan, a superhero fan, because I don't know anybody that would just buy random action figures of things that they didn't
Yeah.
know anything about or care about. So let's go back a little bit and start there. Like, do you remember what? I, let's go with superheroes since you said that was your collection first. What? And I know superhero. For the last 15 years or so, superheroes have been the in thing with the Marvel universe. But prior to that, what got you into superheroes as a kid?
um so this is a very unpopular answer, but I
Okay.
was a very small kid when this was a movie came out. Was Batman and Robin with George Clooney. I had that on VHS. I wore that tape out. I love that movie. It's not great, not a great movie, but I fell in love with Batman and Robin that way. And then the Batman Beyond cartoon, because I was a little too young for Batman animated series. So that X-Men Evolution, because again I was too young for the X-Men cartoon. Just I was in that weird age range of where like superheroes weren't really getting any like super iconics like cartoons. Like I missed all that stuff, but we got kind of the remnants of it. So, but yeah, Batman Beyond, that animated series was a really big tipping point for cartoons. But I think the Batman and Robin movie was like my first real introduction to comic book heroes.
Okay. Yeah, it's interesting hearing you say that because I'm just gonna say a little bit older than you, uh, and for me, I got into comic books as a kid, and I say got into comic books. Anybody that's actually into comic books would say no, you just bought the occasional book, but I remember going to the grocery store, not even a comic book store, and every month there'd be GI Joe and Daredevil I would pick up. And obviously in the '80s we had the GI Joe, Transformers, He-Man cartoons that were selling them, but the superheroes. I mean, I remember Superman and Lois Lane getting married and that being a huge comic book. But the superhero stuff, from my memory, didn't take off until you said the late '90s, early 2000s. Um, I'm just trying to think of the thought that I'm trying to think of right now is the superheroes that you grew up with. Because we have the iconic Marvel and Batman and the DC, the Batman, Wonder Woman, Superman. Were those the ones that got you into, like you said, you were too old or too young for the X-Men comic book, but before the X-Men movies came out, which superheroes were you into?
Um, so I didn't get into like actual comic books until
Mm-hmm.
college. That being said, like I would watch anytime a superhero movie came out or like the cartoons, I would go and watch the old animated series stuff from like the 90s.
Okay.
Um, I was always a really big fan of the sidekicks. I don't know why I always grab. I'm a little brother. I had an older sister, so I was always player two in video games. So I think I've always had kind of an affinity for like Luigi from Mario and Luigi, and then I'm a big Robin fan from Batman and Robin. Like I have a Nightwing tattooed on my elbow. Um, so I got into Nightwing as a character and Robin as a character. I guess Robin first, and then into Nightwing, and I would watch like Teen Titans and like it was the cartoons that got me into superheroes, and then comic books kind of happened later. Because I would have started up whenever the new 52 came out, which would have been 2011 or no, been like 2012, 2013, I think,
Mm-hmm.
is whenever I really started reading it. But it would have been after the big Iron Man boom. But I wasn't a big fan of Marvel as much as I was DC.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, kids my age, we all loved Spider-Man because of the Tobey Maguire movies. So it's one of those that I think Spider-Man, Nightwing, probably my top two whenever it came to like what got me into comic books.
Okay. Do you still read comics on a monthly basis, or?
Yeah, yeah. I collect the Nightwing book from its Rebirth. I don't know if it's still called Rebirth, but I pretty much just read Nightwing. There was a flood that happened a couple years ago, maybe last year, I don't remember, that took out a vast majority of my books
Uh,
in my basement. So I just do Nightwing now. I keep them all upstairs, so I ain't got to worry about it. But Yeah, no, Nightwing's really the only thing I read comic book wise now.
Okay. All right. Then from superheroes to wrestlers, which I guess is a different breed of superhero to some people. How did that transition, or when did the wrestling bug bite you?
Before before superheroes for
Okay.
sure. I was always around it whenever I was a kid. And I never realized how much of a thing it was in my life. Like I knew how like much I watched wrestling, but I never realized that like my mom. I a couple years ago I found this out. I wore a Dusty Rhodes shirt to my mom's house because I just have a bunch of wrestling shirts, and she was like, "Oh, I love Dusty Rhodes," and then she told me like how much she used to watch like wrestling when she was a kid, and I never knew that. It was just I just assumed it was something that was on the TV. My earliest memory of watching anything, and this was the '90s, so whenever I say this, I'm not speaking ill of anybody, but I was kind of raised in a bar the first like 5 or 6 years of my life because, I mean, it was the '90s. You could have a kid in a bar, and it probably was not the best idea, but it wasn't the
Right.
worst idea. And
And you're
my
from the
mom was the
Midwest too. Let's put it
yeah, and
out.
I'm from the
It's
Midwest.
Midwest in
Yeah,
the '90s. Yeah, it makes sense.
yeah, like yeah, it's fine. My mom was the bartender and she couldn't get a babysitter some days, so I remember, and I think this is why he's my favorite wrestler. On top of the fact that I just think like I've never seen Sean Waltman have a bad match.
Mhm.
But my earliest memory of wrestling that I can remember is him debuting after WrestleMania, like coming out as X Pac. I remember that I was sitting at the end of the bar with the TV that was like up that I had to like look directly up to look at, and I remember that scene, and I was like, that guy looks cool. Leather jackets are neat. Um, and that's my earliest memories. And I watched Monday Night Raw all the time. I didn't even know WCW was a thing. Like I was a WWF kid. Um, yeah, no. So I mean, earliest memories of enjoying anything, it was like Power Rangers, Batman and Robin, and wrestling. Wrestling probably being the first out of those three.
Okay. All right. Now we go back to the figure collection because, like you said, you were collecting or you had figures before you started collecting the Elite line. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm guessing where you're just buying, like the random figure. Um, if you go to the store, you see, hey, I like this guy. I want to have him in a match against my X Pac figure, for chance. Or was there more um, to the collecting from early on, or did the collecting come later? I guess.
I think I just ended up with a lot of wrestling figures as a kid. Like it was the one
Mm,
thing my mom knew would like make me quiet at Walmart.
yeah.
If we just like went through the aisle, she'd grab me a wrestler. Like, I have memories of family members buying me. Like the one thing I had rebought from my childhood. My great grandma Jack. Whenever I was really little, she bought me a Vince McMahon and Stone Cold 2 pack, and I have not that
Mm,
one obviously, but I a vendor at a show I was at was selling one, and I was like, I want to hang that in my wall. Um, it was like the one thing that everybody knew I liked. So it was the one thing I got for like every birthday and Christmas were like wrestling action figures. So I didn't really have to like ask for any of them. They just kind of like popped up at the house. Um, Whenever I got older into it, it was just, it started it as who did I really like whenever I was a kid? I'm going to get their action figures. And then once I like got my job out of college, I was able to kind of like, well, this person's getting their first action figure. I'm just going to get it so that way I don't have to worry about ever trying to find it. Um, and then it kind of snowballed into now I have to like look at whatever they Mattel announces and what I don't need to buy. Which man, that number's getting lower and lower, and it really makes me sad. Um, so yeah, no, for my current collection, it's just things I like my Marvel and DC setups. It's just characters that I'm a fan of. Um, like if they make a really cool, like I'm looking at Iron Man and Luke Cage. I was waiting
mhm.
years for them to make a good Iron Man and Luke Cage, and they dropped a set a couple years ago, and I was like, all right, I never need to buy another Iron Man or Luke Cage because it's not going to get better than that. Wrestling's a little bit different because I mean, comic books you get kind of get a couple iconic looks, but like Seth
Mhm.
Rollins comes out with a very striking gear every other week,
Yeah.
and it's like, well, I kind of want the purple gear now because that looked really cool. So I think it's just kind of wrestling wise, it's whatever pops up that they announce that I'm like, oh, that's something I could definitely sink my teeth into or put on the shelf and enjoy to look at.
Yeah, and I think I've read interviews with wrestlers before, and they talk about when they're, putting their gear together. The first thought is it going to be easy to move in? Second thought is how is the action figure going to look, and it's they know, and I think that's the um, thing with action figures. I don't know if you ever watched the Netflix series "The Toys That Made Us."
Yeah,
The toy
I
that
did
made me.
watch
Yeah,
that.
I remember the He-Man episode. They talked about how during the line of He-Man, like they came out with a He-Man, figure and Skeletor in Wave One, and then like maybe one other Skeletor and He-Man in Wave like 4 or 5, and that was it. And then they were saying, that's part of the reason why they think the line eventually stopped selling is because, well, if you're not putting out new main characters and you already have it, you're not going to go back and buy it again. But with wrestling, it's how many John Cena action figures are there? How many CM Punk action figures are there that the fans are going to buy? And
Yeah.
so, you mentioned Xbox. How many Xbox figures do you own?
Um, Sean Waltman as a whole,
Mm-hmm.
I want to say behind me I have about 10. I want to say there's 10 behind me right now,
Okay.
which sounds like a lot, but whenever I'm thinking about like Finn Balor, I have almost every time they've made a demon action figure of his,
Uh-huh.
I made it a point to buy it. So I probably have just as many Finn Balor action figures behind me as I do X-Pac.
So, is there any figure, or I guess any wrestler look that hasn't been made yet that you're waiting for, or you keep hoping?
Man, Mattel does a good job. Uh it's really hard for me to be like, you didn't make that yet, because if they haven't, they're probably going to. Like the Monday Night Wars wave, which is their Walmart exclusive wave right now, they're making Stone Cold Steve Austin whenever he attacked Vince in the doctor outfit.
Hmm.
Like, Mattel does a great job of, if there's a moment that you can think of in wrestling that they can make an action figure of, they've done it. There's people that I wish that they would re-sign WWE for Legends contracts so we could get figures that we were supposed to get. Um, the Randy Savage being the biggest one. I'm a huge Randy Savage fan, and they were supposed to make an ultimate of his match against Warrior. Uh, I had it pre-ordered. I had everything going for it, and then it was like, oh, never mind. We can't make that action figure anymore. There's things that like, and of course, like the obvious, like I wish that they could make Owen Hart action figures, but that's never gonna happen. So it's one of those that I'm like, I made an Owen Hart Elite. I made a custom one just so I could have it in my 1990s display. That's right here. It's back a little bit further, but I have it
Right.
behind me. I made an Owen Hart so it could be with the Hart Foundation. But um, as far as current stuff, I don't watch current WWE too often, so I kind of get shocked whenever things get announced. Where I'm like, oh, that's a really cool like CM Punk,
Mhm.
or a really cool like Seth Rollins. Like, oh, I'll buy that because it's a neat looking figure. Right now, I'm more interested in their Monday Night Wars wave, which is from like 95 to 2000 is what they're focusing on. And we're getting a lot of really cool looks for NWO characters and WWF characters. So it's a really lame answer to say I think they've made everything that I would want, but honestly, I think they've made everything that I could ask.
Yeah, I
So
don't
now
know.
I'm shocked whenever they come out with new stuff.
Yeah, Kevin Hunsberger from the My 123 Cents podcast that I was on this past the episode we did about SummerSlam. We were talking again about the Mattel figures, and he brought up the Stone Cold Doctor, and we brought up the fact that that episode of Raw featured Vince McMahon in the hospital bed and Mick Foley debuting Sacco, and those two guys are no longer, well, I guess, no longer with WWE. So it's like, how are you going to promote the Dr. Steve Austin figure without mentioning the other two main players in that scene? And it's not like WWE will mention the figures explicitly on air, but it would have been nice
It
to at least get events in the hospital bed playset to go with
Yeah.
that, I guess.
Yeah, and that because that's also a thing that I do a lot. I do a lot of it's called kit bashing, where I'm
Mm-hmm.
mixing and matching parts to make certain figures. I think I made that Mick Foley last week in ultimate form, in sweatpants and the white shirt with Sacco. Mankind has a couple of figures still. He has a Cactus Jack ultimate coming out, and I think he has a Mattel ringside figure coming out. He's almost done, and I honestly don't know if we're gonna if we get events, it's gonna probably be a couple of years from now, because I think
Mm-hmm.
all the lawsuit stuff settled. But I still don't know if Mattel's even gonna want to touch that.
Right.
For, I mean, good reasons. But yeah, it is weird because that was my first thought too. Whenever I saw the Stone Cold and the hospital guy, and it's just like, man, we're kind of missing the reason that he's there. Like,
Yeah.
it's neat that we're getting a bedpan accessory, but like, we're not getting the second half of that
Right.
scene. So it's neat. I know for the Monday Night Wars, they're kind of. I think they started that line through 2 or 3 years ago, and I think they're starting to like get to the end of, okay, I think we've made everything that we can. To where they're going to have to start re-signing Legends contracts to make more figures, or the line's going to be very repetitive.
Yeah. One thing I noticed in the new figures that um, they package pieces of a figure with other figures in the build a character set or build a figure set. And in the past, I think they've done Rocco, the Legion of Doom's dummy, and I think a Howard Finkel. And this year they announced the one that I think all the kids are going to be asking for come Christmas, and that is Freebird Buddy Roberts.
Oh yeah.
Because which kid doesn't want to play with the guy that has not been mentioned on WWE programming in probably 45 years? So,
But man, I am pretty excited for that Buddy Roberts build a figure. I'm not gonna lie. Um, that kind of goes back into your question about
yeah.
like the collectability of them, like that. So that's coming in the Target Legends wave,
Mm-hmm.
and that's a collector. That's for us, like essentially. Those are for past WWE fans. Um, if you were gonna ask me what my favorite line that Mattel does, it's the Target Legends figures by a landslide. Just for the fact of the things they give us and how varied it is. Looking at that Buddy Roberts build a figure, it's Jimmy Garvin. Um, Unfortunately, another Hulk Hogan. I really wish they'd stop putting Hulk Hogan in build a figure waves. I'm tired of owning his figures. Um, so Garvin, Hogan, I want to say Victoria, which she's never gotten an elite before, so I'm kind of excited about that. And then we're getting an Abyss action figure. I don't know why we're getting an Abyss action figure, but I'm really happy that we're getting an Abyss action
Yeah.
figure. Um, that Legends line at Target is so like it's so vast, and they do a lot of really deep cuts. That's the wave that I am continuously shocked that they're making that. Uh, and just kind of the silly like stuff they make. Like they've done the DX Army where they all had like soft good pants and shirts that then have ring gear. Like the Target Legends waves, like they're for me it's their most impressive, and then they usually drop an ultimate to go along with it. Hacksaw Jim Duggan's the most recent ultimate. That's a really cool figure. Um, yeah, Target Legends is kind of the one that's it's very collector. Same thing with the Monday Night Wars, where I think the main elite line you could say are for kids, but the exclusive store lines, those are for the like past WWE fans and the collectors of that. The niche within a niche.
Okay. Um, yeah, I was going to say with you mentioned the Target line. I guess that there's a Walmart line. Like as a collector, figure, do you wish you only had to go to one store to find figures, or is going multiple places part of the fun of the hunt? Is there a fun of the hunt for you, or do you just go online and order and then make it easy?
Um, I used to be a big go out and hunt kind of person. I still do it a lot just because if I want like the Monday Night Wars stuff is very hard to find most of the time. Um, and those build a figures are the ones that like I get the most excited for. It seems like I drove an hour and a half to try to get the Charles Robinson build a figure. I don't know why I wanted a Charles Robinson action figure, but they gave me the option, so I was gonna hunt it down. Um,
Did
I used
that
to be
real
really
quick? Did the Charles Robinson figure come with George Michael tattoo?
no,
Uh,
no, that would have been great though. Um, no, the so like I used to be really like anytime I'd go to Stride. I think I did an early episode of My 1 2 3 Cents with Kevin about like collecting action figures before I was even wrestling, and how much I like to hunt. Now it's like if I don't have to leave my house, I'm gonna I'm gonna kind of do that. But I've also been collecting action figures for 12 years, so like there are some times if I can just order it online. Target's pre-orders, if I can hit those up, like ship them to my house for free. I'll see them when I see them. I'm not worried about it. But that's getting kind of hard. Like Walmart, you can't pre-order stuff. It feels like most of the time, like they just don't show up. So I'm constantly having to hit up WalMarts. It would be nice to like have everything at every store, but then we run into the issue like I'm from Cape Girardeau, and right now I really want to see the Cactus Jack Ultimate on shelves, and we have like eight Diamond Dallas Page Ultimates, and like, well, I'm never going to see that figure because that figure won't sell.
Yeah.
So it's I've heard it said before on like the major wrestling figure podcast of the hunts part of it, and that's true, and that's fine. But sometimes I just like I wish I wouldn't have to try so hard to get things.
Yeah, I can't imagine, especially not knowing. I mean, obviously not knowing if it's going to be there, but not knowing if you're ever going to see it. I mean, I think back as a kid collecting Star Wars figures, and not to the extent of wrestling, of actually collector knowledge today. 'Cause I had no idea what figures were coming out when they were coming out, but you would just go to Walmart and be like, oh, here's this figure that is new that I've never seen, and you buy it. But I don't, there was no like, okay, I'm going out today and I'm going to track down this version of Han Solo or this figure. So I think, and again, I think that goes into the collector aspect of today's thing where people are more knowledgeable. Um,
Yeah.
and it just made me think of about 10, 12 years ago. The guy that gave me my first job here in LA is a huge Star Wars fan. And he called me up one night and he was like 2 miles away at a Toys R Us. And he's like, you want to come down and hang out? I'm like, why? He's like, they're opening up at midnight for the new Star Wars line is being released. And I'm like, why are you standing outside? You're a 45-year-old man outside Toys R Us at midnight. But he had like the list of everything that was coming out so he could check off, make sure and I guess, is that, so I, to go back into fandom, is that part of the fun of collecting, or is do you think you would just have more? Would it be better to be that diehard collector or someone who is just, hey, I'm at Target, they have this figure, I'm going to buy it?
Uh, I so I wouldn't say like I'm gonna say I'm not a diehard collector. Where if you're watching this and you see behind me, you're gonna say, yeah, you're lying. Um, I don't. I guess I used to go pretty hard on like trying to collect anything that I could.
Mhm.
Whereas now it's just like things that I want. Um, but it's very rare that there's an action figure that if I don't get it, I'm gonna like my collection won't feel complete. Um, there are things that like there's a new 4 pack through Target that's the history of the Intercontinental Belt, and it's 4 action figures that have 4 different variations of the IC belt. And I've been to my Target about 2 or 3 times this week because the app is saying they have it, but like
Yeah.
it's not showing up. But that's because right now with the way work is, I'm currently not working. Like I'm on my break, and so like I have the time to do it now. Whenever I'm at work, like I don't put that kind of time, effort, or energy into it. If I'm on that side of Cape and I'm at Target, I'll hit up Target, and then if I want to, I'll go to Walmart. Um, but then there are other times where like anytime it's a new Monday Night Wars drop, like I'll try to, if I see a Walmart and I have time, I'll stop and try to see if they have it. Um, I don't. I enjoy collecting, but not to the point that like the collecting's the important part. It's just like it's something that makes me happy, so it's what I go for.
Mhm.
Um, but like I don't think of myself as an action figure collector. I just like buy things that I enjoy. Um, like you could if I could keep one of every character I have, I would get rid of like 80% of my collection, but I would still be happy with my collection, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's a healthy way to collect instead of having to be like, oh my gosh, I have to collect everyone in this wave or everyone in this series. It's, um, I think mentally that's a little maybe OCD, but
Yeah, I
um,
used to be whenever I was
mm,
wrestling. I would if I had a build a figure wave, like going back to Hulk Hogan, it feels
yeah,
like every other wave has a Hulk Hogan um, figure and a build a figure wave, and it's like, well, how many yellow tights, yellow boots do I need?
right.
Um, I would like if I had to buy 4 figures to build Corey Graves, two or three of those figures would end up in a box that I would sell at a wrestling show for like $10,
Hmm.
and I would lose my tail on the wave basically, but like I would get the build a figure. Which if I went on eBay, it would probably cost me $60 just for that figure anyway. So I'm not like, I don't feel like I need to have everything. Now, if it's a build a figure, I have to buy all four if I really want it. Like there's a Harvey Whippleman that's coming out,
Hmm.
and I'm like 50-50 on it. Like there's no figure in that wave that I feel like I have to have. So that might be one where I just go and spend the $60 on eBay for that figure, just so I don't like, I'd save the money and then I don't have to like try to get rid of things because I'm not even wrestling anymore. So selling stuff is like a nightmare.
So my big question with the collectible figures is, and this is why I think why I've thought that they're more for collectors than kids, is the I guess the elite wave and the more collectible ones come with multiple heads and multiple hands. What do you do with the extra appendages?
So I have three very long totes right here, actually
Uh,
four. And I bag all of them up, not in any kind of organized way. That would make sense.
I say, do
Um,
you write the name of whose hands they are?
no, no.
Okay.
Honestly, I think I threw away like like two Ziploc bag full of hands like a week ago. I was like, I'm never gonna use these. Like, I'm not. If I'm, uh, I go to Oklahoma. I have like family that lives in Oklahoma City,
Hmm.
and I'll go there for a week. And there's a lot of really cool like stores. So I'll like take a tote with me of figures that I know I'm never gonna like display, and I'll sell them to a store and use that store credit for other things. The Mattels I put in plastic bags and I throw in these totes, and then like the heads I'll usually keep because the heads they look different. Like I can always tell
Hmm.
that's a Ric Flair. And I'll change those out like in this ring display. Um, like Kurt Angle has a yelling head sculpt for some reason, and then an ultimate. So I have Gunther chopping him against the ropes. Like I can make those work that way. The hands and stuff like that, I
Hmm.
usually throw away. Soft goods, I try to keep that stuff. It just depends on space. Like head sculpts, I'll always keep because there's things I can do with those, and that's easy for customs and stuff like that. But yeah, I'm not super organized whenever I try to like I'm not standing here being like, all right, this is MJF's left hand because it has the ring
Hmm.
on it. Like I don't go that deep into it.
You mentioned customs. Do you do any custom work, or do you collect custom figures as well?
Um, I do the kit bashing a lot where Mick Foley's one of my all time favorites. Whenever he announced that he wasn't going to be a part of WWE anymore, they had only made a Mankind Ultimate from whenever he won the WWF Championship. That one is right here. And I was able to get that figure. And it's a really good Mankind. And then they did a Three Faces of Foley Elite 3 pack where it was like the brown suit
Mhm.
Mankind, like the early Mankind, a WCW Cactus, and a Dude Love. And I was like, all right, cool, I'm good on that. Well, the second they announced that he wasn't going to be re-signed, or he said he was leaving, they said they were doing a Cactus Jack Ultimate. And I was like, I think I can make this work if I know how to piece everything together. So I made a list of everything and how much money I was willing to spend on it with the parts I already had, and I was able to make a 1999 Mankind, uh, a what was it? I want to say like a 92 WCW Cactus Jack Ultimate and a Dude Love Ultimate with Hacksaw Jim Duggan. So I actually have to find that Hacksaw Jim Duggan figure again because I used that body for the Dude Love. Um, it's very rare that I do painting because I just don't feel like I'm good at it. Um, I did some painting for a Scott Hall WCW debut figure. I did some
Mhm.
painting for that. If I can enhance a figure, I will, custom wise. And they make it easy now. If you have hot water at your house, you can pop pieces off and put pieces back on and mix and match to make kind of any action figure you'd want. If I could paint, it'd be a lot better. But I don't buy custom figures just because I know 9 times out of 10 I could probably do it myself, if that makes sense. Um, and I think the only thing I bought custom wise is I had someone paint a head sculpt for that Owen Hart figure I told you about.
Mhm.
I had somebody paint up a Owen Hart head for me so I could put it on an elite body. That was the only thing I've ever purchased custom wise. But all of the custom stuff I have behind me, I did myself.
All right, cool. We've talked Mattel, but there are other companies making figures as well. Do you buy? I guess is the fandom big enough to buy other stuff, or do you only stay with Mattel figures?
I have a pretty big AEW and Ring of Honor Jazzwares collection. Which I think that line is dead. I'm pretty
Mm-hmm.
sure we got a handful of figures coming out through AEW and Jazzwares to the end of this year, and that wave's going to be done. I think that action figure line made Mattel's better because there was competition in the market. And the Jazzwares, they have some really awesome like stuff that they made. I'm looking directly at it right now
Mm-hmm.
for where I'm sitting in my room, and the Jazzwares figures are really really cool. I wish they would have gotten a longer run than what they did. And then I have a couple of third party, or not third party, that's the wrong word, independent toy companies that made action figures of wrestlers that I've gotten. Zombie Sailor Toys, I'm a big
Yeah.
fan of their work. I have a bunch of his Heels and Faces, the Hasbro style. And then his Pinnacle Wave 1, I think, are probably some of the best wrestling action figures ever made. Uh, and then I have a couple of Power Towns, even though that company is, I'm pretty sure, dead and stole a lot of people's money. And then Collect Major, Myers and Cardona's way or company. I buy their big rubber guys if it's people that I'm like a big fan of. So I have a Savage big rubber guy. I had just had the Hangman Adam Page big rubber guy come in. That is really cool. I'm such a big fan of wrestling that if I can justify it and it's not
Mm-hmm.
like super expensive, I'll snag an action figure from a independent company.
Yeah, I like the Big Rubber Guy line, like the people that they have made figures of, and I think without that, uh, we wouldn't be getting the LJN replicas that WWE is doing now, and without that, we wouldn't have got a Jelly Roll figure. So, thank you,
Oh
Collect
no, we were
Major.
getting that. We're getting that elite though. Oh, they were gonna make
Yes,
Jelly Roll. He was gonna get made.
but yeah, for me, I just can't justify the price of the Big Rubber Guys, and even Um, I was at Target a few weeks ago and they had the King Kong Bundy LJN, which was one of the early ones that I got as a kid. And that nostalgia wave hit me. And I'm like, oh man, I'd love to have this, even though I don't collect figures. It's that, again, nostalgia factor. But I'm like, $25? I just can't, I can't justify it. And then Big Rubber Guys being like 60. I'm like, the Tony Storm black and white would have been cool, but um, I'm
But
trying to
that
think.
one you
I
had to. I better say that
pre-ordered.
one's. Yeah, you had to buy $200 worth of them and hope that you got the Tony Storm.
I will say that my girlfriend did buy me the Danielle Hausen figure for
Oh
my
yeah, those are
birthday,
awesome.
which I'm like the smaller one because I thought it was just the big size. I didn't realize they made a small version. I'm like, that's if they did more like that, maybe I would buy.
Yeah, um, it's the big rubber guys are a sometime treat. That's how I
Yeah.
always say it. If it's somebody like I being the my age that I am,
Mm-hmm.
the amount of people that they make for the big rubber guys line, it's a lot of them are not ones that I need to have. Right now I'm kind of itching over the ECW guys they're making. Like there's a Sabu and a Raven.
Nice.
But that shelf is such a I don't have a big area for those figures. So
Mm-hmm.
I can't get a whole lot of them. So for that, like I'll collect the ones that I know that I really want. So the WWE LJN remakes, I got Dusty and Stone Cold, and then I have a Savage, a Flair, and a Hangman. Now the Flair was literally I was buying the what your Danielle Housen. They did
Mm-hmm.
a Savage from Be a Man from that album,
Okay.
and I went on their website, and it was one of those where I was already going to order that one, and then the Ric Flair Bloody was available, so I was like, I'll just put it in an order together and get free shipping. Um,
Yeah.
the big rubber guys is very much as a sometime treat where it's like, all right, cool. If I don't buy a lot of figures in a month, like, all
Mm-hmm.
right, I can drop 50, $60 on a big rubber guy if it's somebody I really like, or if it's some like if they make a Swerve Strickland big rubber guy, I will get it. Like there are some people where I will spend the extra to get the really cool version of something.
Yeah.
Now not like I don't have the bloody hangman because I'm not going to spend $200 on a big rubber guy. That would be ridiculous. But if it's like just if it like they made Hangman Adam Page, I love Adam Page. I'm gonna get that big rubber guy because I think it's cool. They have an Adam Copeland coming out that I pre-ordered the second they like announced it. Um, they're really neat. Same thing with like the heels and faces. They're also
Mhm.
like $40-$50 toys. And they're being Hasbro size is kind of but they honestly like I'm looking at them right now. They're very gorgeous looking figures.
Yeah. Yeah, the only, I said I don't collect, and that's a partial lie because if I move out of the way, you can see I do have a shelf of micro brawlers up
Yeah.
here. And I get those mainly because I get the Pro Wrestling Tees crates. And
Yeah, I had
so,
just I stopped the crate a couple like a year ago. I'd stopped the crate
yeah.
whenever they switched to bi-monthly, and I just got rid of all of my micro brawlers. I did that trip to Oklahoma City that I was talking about. I gave them to a store, and they're like, I don't think we'll ever move these, and I'm like, give them to kids. I have no space for them anymore.
Yeah, and that's the space factor is the thing. It's like they're small. I can just put them up on a shelf, and I mean, now they are growing off the shelf. So I don't know what I'm going to do with them because I'm they come in a mystery crate. You never know who you're going to get, and so it's like, oh, this one is good. This one is a wrestler that I have seen, but
Yeah.
I would not purchase. But um, my question to you would be because my girlfriend has seen and she's like, why do you have these toys? Why are your figure? How is your significant other with your toy collecting?
So she doesn't collect.
Mm-hmm.
But when we first started dating, she did. We actually met like we started talking because she was looking for a specific figure and she knew I was always out looking for action figures. So like when we started dating, we actually collected together. She kind of like I'm gonna say the word grew out of it, for lack of a better phrase. But she stopped collecting for the most part. Now there's some like Chelsea Green. She loves Chelsea Green. So whenever her Elite came out like a year or two ago, she got one of those. And then if there's people that I know she's a big fan of,
Mm-hmm.
I'll buy the figure for her, and then I'll kind of see what she wants to do with it. So like Kazuchika Okada had a Shop AEW exclusive. Well, that's like her like she named a cat after that guy. So I bought two of them because I knew I needed one, so I bought her one, and she has it on her wall. And then like she's in love with Hook, so anytime a Hook figure comes out, I'll snag one for her, or I'll try to make sure she has like a complete Hook line. Um, but yeah, no, she understands it. She knows that all of our bills are getting paid, so she's cool with it. I think if that didn't, and that's the thing with people and collecting and stuff like that
Yeah.
is that like I have a lot of friends that I'll show my collections to, and all of my friends like where I work with, like they all have kids and are adults, and I've always had little brother energy everywhere I go, and they're like, "How can you justify that?" And I'm like, "Well, I don't have any vices outside of collecting. Like I don't really smoke or drink. Like I don't go out. Like this is kind of like my thing that I indulge in all the time. And I have something to show for it. Like I'm looking at this whole room right now, and I'm like, yeah, like I could go and do things that probably weren't as good for my body. And I mean, I did for 7 years in wrestling, but like
Yeah.
I have a nice little collection to show for it. But it is one of those that like whenever I was in college, like I couldn't afford to collect, so it wasn't like an action figure every other month kind of thing where I had to be very picky and choosy over it. But like Sadie now, she's like, nah, she'll ask me, she's like, what's in that box? And I'm like, oh, it's a Jacob Fatu because I need a third one for some reason.
Yeah, that's my thing too. It's my girlfriend when she talks about it, I'm like, I don't collect anything really except tattoos, and then she'll remind me that I don't have tattoo money right now. When I
Ooh,
say,
man, yeah, tattoos are rough. Oh,
yeah,
big fan of
um,
yeah.
and I keep trying to justify that. Yes, I do, but no, I know that right now I don't have the money that I would like to spend on that. But and I think that is a healthy point to point out. It's like, yeah, as long as you're taking care of everything that needs to be taken care of, then again, the collecting is part of fandom. I think um, as a way to just uh, enjoy something in moderation, I would say. And I don't know where I'm going with this. This happens quite a bit on this show.
Yeah,
So,
but
uh,
but talking about the moderation, like
yeah.
if like I had a friend that wanted to get into Marvel Legends
Mhm.
a couple years ago, and we have a there. Well, I say we. I live 2 hours south of it. Up in St. Louis, there's a toy show called Toy Man,
Mhm.
and they run like 8 to 10 Toy Mans a year, where it's a flea market for action figures. I go every once in a while. Again, I say I'm not a diehard collector if you look behind me, but this
Mhm.
is over the course of, let's see, 2016. I've been collecting these for 12 years. Like, if you parse that out over 12 years, it's not as bad as it looks. But he wanted to get into Marvel Legends, and it's like, I want one of every character that I like. Oh, well, that's a nightmare to
Mhm.
like try to do. But like moderation, you do it over the course of over a decade, like you
Yeah.
get a pretty good collection of things.
Yeah.
Um, that's always the like anytime there's a new wave of something or a new Mattel just bought the license for DC action figures. I had to like I'm having to have a internal like conversation with myself of, well, Todd McFarlane's been making DC figures for the last 6 years,
Mhm.
and I made a DC McFarlane collection. Well, now with Mattel, like, do I start a new wave? Do I sell my old wave? Like, I'm kind of on the fence of like anytime they make Dick Grayson in like the Mattel form, I'll buy it, because that's my guy. But like, I don't want to start a new wave of something.
Yeah.
So my DC collection's kind of dead now. It's pretty complete. I'm looking at it. I love it to death. But like, I'm not really getting new action figures for that. Same thing with AEW. Like, I don't want to get rid of my Jazzwares collection because there's a lot of people that like. I don't think that Will Ospreay is going to get a WWE figure ever. I
Mhm.
could be wrong. So like, do I sell this wave off? Like, nah, I'm going to keep it. But if they make a new AEW line, I don't know if I'm going to like jump into it. And I think that kind of goes into your moderation. WWE
Yeah.
and Mattel, if that relationship ever ends, I am up a creek.
Um, the I've seen some rumors that McFarlane could pick up the AEW line. Do you see that happening?
No. That's the one that a lot of people say. They just picked up. I like McFarlane figures a lot. It's very uh 50-50 on how like wrestling community or not wrestling action figure communities feel about McFarlane's. A lot of people
Mhm.
really like them. I'm one of those people, and a lot of people aren't a fan. And I love them. And they had just started making Mortal Kombat figures. I'm a big Mortal Kombat guy, so I've been buying those. But like, we can't get everybody from Mortal Kombat 1 right away. I don't see McFarlane doing a good job with wrestling toys.
Yeah.
The figures themselves will look great, but I don't know the clip at which wrestling fans are going to want those and how they're actually going to sell. I don't think AEW is a company that should be selling toys,
Yeah.
if that makes sense. I don't think that the fandom is ravenous for AEW collectibles as WWE has. Also, at the end of the day, going back to like the early question that you asked me about,
Mhm.
like, are they for kids? Like, at the end of the day, these are for children. And like, looking at my AEW collection, I don't know many kids that are asking for the Outrunners. I asked for the Outrunners. I
Yeah,
have them.
there's something wrong with kids if they're not asking for
For
outrunners,
the
especially
yeah,
in their
that
cigarette inspired tights. Come on.
yeah, their
Yeah.
parents aren't raising them right, but that's not a
Yeah.
me problem. But like that, you like, I think that was AEW's problem is that they couldn't move the action figures that they wanted to make. They made some really cool ones, but
Mhm.
like, outside of a couple, like I don't know, like looking. How many Orange Cassidys do you need? Well, I have like 3 I'm looking at right now, and I don't know any kid that wants Jeff Jarrett action figure from 2024.
Yeah.
Like, I want that figure, but are they making enough? Are they selling enough to justify making them? Whereas WWE, like that machine's so big that they're going to sell out every figure they make just because it's WWE and people are always going to buy WWE action figures for their kids.
Yeah. Um, my last question was going to be, like we said, we've talked about figures that you have, what's come out. Um, you said you're running out of figures that you think you would need to buy, like if you saw it, as soon as the announcement was made. Do you have 2 or 3 figures that you don't have yet that either a specific version of a character, or is there a wrestler that doesn't have a figure that you would like? Like, I don't think have they made a Rougeau brothers Mattel figure?
No, and I don't know if that's something I would want. I would say the one that I would go to because it's the same person that I complain about every year that they're not in the Hall of Fame just got a figure announced, and I've already bought it, and I should get it in the next month. But Cyndi Lauper,
Yeah.
the fact that like we never got Cyndi Lauper stuff as big as she was in the Rock and Wrestling Connection, and that was before my time. I'm a big Cyndi
Yeah.
Lauper fan just for music, but it's one of those where it's like we have Snoop Dogg in the Hall of Fame, which I mean, granted, we don't have a Snoop Dogg figure, which is pretty awesome, but like. They're making the two big ones they are making that I would want, and that's Cyndi Lauper and Dennis Rodman. They're both getting action figures in the next. Well, I mean, Lauper's is already out, but Rodman has a figure coming out. Outside of the super deep cuts, like even if you think of like the people of like, well, they'll never get a figure. New Jack has a WWE figure coming out in a month or two.
Mm.
Like Mattel's kind of done a good job outside of Owen Hart, which like that one's never gonna happen.
Yeah.
And like I wouldn't want a Crispin. Like I think even if they said, "Hey, we got a Crispin Wall action figure," I wouldn't want it. Billy Kidman, there's one. There's one that I want that cause my Monday Night Wars elite. And then honestly, like we didn't even talk about it. That's how much they announced in Mattel. But AAA, they're making AAA figures. We're getting an original La Parka Ultimate. That's one that like. I'm losing my mind over. Like the AAA collection as a whole, I'm like, oh man, there's a lot of things we can do with that. Like Conan's getting an action figure. Well, that means we can probably get K-Dog from the NWO in the Monday Night Wars wave, or if that wave's done, like they'll like. This year was very much for me, for what they announced. Like I don't think I'll ever stop collecting Mattel WWE unless they stop making them. But it was kind of getting to the thing where it's like, man, outside of my like creativity getting me and like Build-A-Figures, like I'm not buying the main elite waves, just because I don't watch WWE really anymore. So like outside of like Penta and people that I'm a big fan of, like it's the flashback figures that get me. This AAA partnership has kind of opened it up a lot, where we're getting La Parker, we're getting Psychosis, we're getting AAA Rey Mysterio from the old Killian figures, Kellyan. I'm trying to think of other people they announced. Like Mr. Iguana is getting like action. Like there's a lot of really cool stuff that's coming out. And like if I see a Dirty Dom figure that I like, I'll get. There's people I like from WWE, but it is one of those where it's like, unless it's somebody that I'm a huge fan of, like a Jacob Fatu, like I'm not buying 3 Dominic Mysterios. Whereas like the flashbacks, like yeah, no, keep making the New Age Outlaws and X-Pac. I bet I'll buy them every time. If given the opportunity. So yeah, no, Billy Kidman's a big one. I'm trying to think of people that they could make that they just don't. I would love a Wade Barrett, a Bad News Barrett with the gavel.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm trying to think if there's a Nick Aldis and Adam Pearce, but not as GMs. Because we got the GM figures, and I have both of those. Those are the Build-A-Figures that I'm always like, oh man, they're making Nick Aldis. I'm gonna need that. There's a couple that they could make, but like this year, the AAA being as like prevalent as they'd shown off, like I'm pretty stoked for that, because those are people that like they probably never thought they were getting action figures. And then there's a couple of like AJ Lee and CM Punk Ultimates that I never thought they would make with Larry coming out. I'm like, that's neat. I like that a lot. But yeah, as far as specific people, it's again, Mattel does such a good job of making everybody that it's hard to be like, man, you haven't made that person yet though.
Well, the one that just came to mind, going back to Stone Cold as the Doctor, will you be picking up the Cold Stone Hausen figure?
Oh man, Danhausen has like 4 figures coming out. I'm gonna buy all of them. Yeah, no, I'm 100% buying that. I totally forgot about Danhausen. I had told my buddy, I'm in a lot of action figure group chats with people from Kansas City, and I think I said it. I was like, yeah, Danhausen, he batted the cycle, which I don't think I've ever seen anybody ever do on their first time. He has a 2-pack with a Ghoulhausen, so he's getting a basic. He has an elite coming out. He has that ultimate that's coming out, and he has a flashback figure coming out. Which, when you have a flashback figure when you've only been in the company for less than a year, is kind of like insane.
Yeah.
I love Danhausen. I'm a big fan of wrestling being fun. Like I love wrestlers. Like I'm a huge like Dean Malenko fan, and like what AEW does, like Nigel McGuinness, the guys. Like I like wrestlers, but I also just love stupid fun in wrestling. Like I can have both on a show and be very happy. So Danhausen getting, and I think I'm only missing like one or two AEW Danhausen figures, and I'm not going to go back and try to get them. It's just what happened naturally.
Mhm.
And I won't try to get all the WWE Danhausen, but if I see a Danhausen, I'll buy it almost every time. Because he's a fun character, and like his gear's always really neat. Like he's one of
Mhm.
those guys that's just like in the face paint. Like that's another one. Like I understand why Sting made millions of dollars in wrestling because like same thing with Ultimate Warrior. If you have face paint, you're gonna be a millionaire in wrestling. And I'm very happy that Danhausen is very much going to follow that trend.
All right, yeah, I think it's kind of incredible how quickly, especially after his debut, which didn't go over too well, that Danhausen is now pretty much the face of WWE within 6 months.
I think I that debut was if you didn't know who it was, and like the casual WWE fan is not going to know how to take Danhausen right away.
Yeah.
And like that was for the internet fans to enjoy, and then they had to show what Danhausen was. And the second
Yeah.
that that guy got a chance to show what his character was, it was money hand over fist.
Mm-hmm.
The whole Knicks thing happened, did him a lot of really goodwill. Like that was a very just universally like lucky moment for him. Where now like we have a lot of validity to the cursing and stuff like that. He did a musical segment with Joe Hendry last night.
Yes,
Um,
he did.
and it's like, all right, cool. Like I'm happy that they're doing things with Danhausen that makes sense for Danhausen, but also makes sense within the WWE world.
Yeah, I think again after the Knicks and he cursed Argentina right before the World Cup final, so they lost. So like, I I had a Twitter conversation with a friend like I don't know if we should make fun of Danhausen for thinking he's cursing people. I think he may actually be powerful enough, and the curses are real. So it's best to stay on the good side of Danhausen.
That's why I buy his action figures every time I see him.
That's right. Send him your teeth and your human monies to him, and he'll be happy. But anyway, any last words on collecting or fandom or anything else you want to throw out there?
Oh man, if you're gonna get into collecting, don't do it. It's very time consuming, very headache inducing sometimes. But if you're going to, just get what you like. That's my number one thing. Don't buy things just to buy them. Because if you're buying something for somebody, like if you're just buying it to have it, someone probably wanted that figure. And if you're hoarding stuff, it's the same thing with like trading cards. I play Magic the Gathering. Don't buy things to. It's an investment in your personal time and fun, not for a monetary value. If you're treating it as such, you're doing it wrong.
I did have one final question that just came to mind, and that is: have you
Yeah.
ever walked in and all your figures have somehow mysteriously fallen over? And how long would it take to reset them?
So I have like two shelves that still need to get reset. If I tore everything down and reset it, I would like all of my shelves, like Marvel, comic books, wrestling. If I did that like today to dust everything, I would be doing it for about 2 days.
All right. Well, gives you
Yeah.
something to do for the weekend. So,
Yeah, yeah. Hopefully it doesn't happen though.
all right. Well, Dalton, thanks for coming on the show. It's been great. And if you're watching, let us know about your fandoms or your collections. And as always, question everything.